Disclaimer: not everything is 100% accurate. Some dates for certain events are contradictory, even by Tolkien himself, left for interpretation or guess. Some events has been interpreted by myself, such as travel times, from where certain characters traveled, paths, etc. Details of considered not vital has been left out. Some details of found cool has been represented. In Part 1, we left at how Gandalf was rescued from Orthanc, on September 18. September the 19th, Gandalf reached Edoras, coming as a beggar. He found that evil was already in work in the land, but he was not allowed to enter. Another day passed, and Gandalf finally gained admittance. The king, Théoden, did not listen to his warnings, and commanded him to take a horse and be gone within a day. The same day, the Nazgul reached Isengard, seeking information about the ring and the Shire. Saruman did not come forth, but the ringwraiths did hear his voice. As Saruman realized he must find the ring himself, or come to ruin, he said that only Gandalf might know where the ring was, and to seek him nearby. The next day, however, they encountered Grima Wormtongue, riding to Isengard to tell Saruman about Gandalf's arrival at Edoras. They questioned him, and, terrified, he answered that the wizard Gandalf had passed through Rohan, and also revealed to them where the Shire was. He also told them that Saruman had lied to them in order to deny them this information, revealing his false loyalty to his master, Sauron. The Witch King spared Grima's life, foreseeing that Grima would bring ruin to Saruman. The Nazgûl swiftly set out north. The Nazgûl had a large head start to the Shire, ahead of Gandalf. The Witch King divided his wraiths into 4 pairs, and rode with the swiftest pair to Min Hiriath. At the Tharbad crossing, they captured 2 of Saruman's spies. When questioned, one of the spies, the squint-eyed southerner, who had been used by Saruman to traffic between Isengard and the South Farthing, told the Witch King everything, betraying Saruman. On him, they found charts and maps of the Shire. The Witch King was made aware of the name Baggins, and Hobbiton was singled out for immediate visit. They sent the spy to Bree, telling him that he no longer belonged to Saruman. Now, he belonged to Mordor. The Nazgûl reached Sarn Ford at evening on the 22nd. There, they drove away the guard of rangers stationed there. Early the next day, 4 of the Nazgûl entered the Shire. The remaining 5, led by the Witch King, pursued the rangers eastward. The same day Grima was questioned by the Nazgûl, Gandalf met his horse of choice, Shadowfax, who no one had ever before seen mounted by any man. The horse would not allow him to come near, and Gandalf followed him far over the fields for 2 days before he tamed it, having chased it for over 20 miles. Shadowfax was said to be much faster than the horses of the Nazgûl, and Gandalf took up chase on the Nazgûl on September 23, the same day they entered the Shire. At the last possible day, Frodo departed with Pippin and Sam to Buckland. Merry and Fredegar drove the cart of Frodo's belongings ahead on their way to Crickhollow. On the night of the next day, Frodo, Sam and Pippin were overtaken by a black horseman near Woody End. As it approached, it was driven away by the song of a group of elves. Their leader, Gildor, who led a wandering company of elves of Rivendell, traveling eastwards from the Emyn Barade, greeted the hobbits warmly. He and his party left the hobbits before daybreak, while they slept. After separating from the hobbits, Gildor informed other wandering companies to be on the watch, and sent word to the house of Tom Bombadil. He also spoke with Aragorn and sent a message to Elrond. Gandalf crossed the Isen the same day. The next day a rider approached Farmer Maggot asking about Baggins. The farmer was enraged and told him to go away. That night, the three hobbits came to Maggot's farm. Maggot took them to Buckleberry Ferry. There they joined up with Merry. As they were ferried across into Buckland, they caught sight of a dark shape on the landing from which they had come. On September 26, Frodo and his companions traveled through the Old Forest and came to the house of Tom Bombadil, who had rescued them from Old Man Willow. As the hobbits encountered Tom, two black riders came to the prancing pony, asked about Baggins. But the door was shut on them. They continued the search north. As Gandalf crossed Greyflood, the hobbits are with Tom still, staying their second night. After they said goodbye to Tom Bombadil the following day, the hobbits went on and passed through the Barrow Downs. There, they were captured by a Barrow Wight, one of the spirits sent there by the Witch King centuries ago. They were once again rescued by Tom, and they reached Bree later that night. The same day, Gandalf crossed Sarn Ford as the hobbits were in Barrow Downs, and reached the Shire later that day. There he got information about black riders searching the Shire. The hobbits arrived at the Prancing Pony Inn, Frodo under the name of Underhill, as Gandalf had suggested. While Merry went out to take a walk in the night air, the other hobbits came down to the common room. There, Frodo fell into conversation with a curious ranger called Strider. By accident, Frodo fell, after singing from a table, and the ring slipped on his finger, causing him to vanish. The Southerner had met up with Bill Ferny at the Prancing Pony. The two of them saw Frodo vanish into thin air. They reported the information to the Nazgul. Merry, who was out for a walk, spotted the encounter. He tried to follow the rider, but it disappeared. He returned to the Prancing Pony and warned Strider and the other hobbits about the riders. Strider arranged for a deception, by moving them to a different room. The next morning, their ponies were gone and the room was ravaged and Crickhollow raided. The four hobbits and the ranger set out into the wilds that morning. They passed through Chetwood and Midgewater marshes to avoid the main road. As the hobbits reached Bree, Gandalf came to Crickhollow, and saw it had been raided. Gandalf set out for Bree and reached it at night. At the Prancing Pony he learned from Barlaman that the hobbits already left with Strider that morning. He stayed the night, and left for Weathertop, a high point in the region, to observe the surrounding area. There he was assaulted at night by the Nazgul, but drove them off after a great battle of light and flame. These phenomena were seen by Aragorn and the hobbits from afar, without knowing it was Gandalf. Before leaving, he marked some stones with the Cirth G for them to find. The next day he escaped to the north from Weathertop, followed by four riders. After a while, the riders turned back. Gandalf traveled up the Horwell, through Ettenmoors. The travel was long and hard, for he could not ride among the rocks in the Troll Fells. Gandalf sent back Shadowfax to his master. 2 days after Gandalf escaped Weathertop, on October 6, Aragorn and the hobbits came there. Black riders were sighted from the top of the cairn, and Strider counseled to remain where they were. Shortly after, they were attacked by the remaining 5 riders, led by the Witch King, who stabbed Frodo with a Morgul blade. A fragment of the blade remained within the wound, working its way toward his heart and threatening to turn Frodo into a wraith. The Witch King now knew who was the bearer, and they withdrew after Aragorn drove them off with flame, as they assumed he would succumb to them quickly. With the bearer marked with the knife, the Witch King thought Frodo could not last more than a day or two. Frodo started to become ill, so his companions hurried to take him to the house of Elrond. The 9th of October, Glorfindel dispatched from Rivendell by Elrond to search for the ring-bearer. Elrond had chosen him partially because Glorfindel did not fear the ringwraiths, as he had great presence in both the seen and unseen worlds. While on his perilous mission, the ringwraiths avoided him. He met 5 of them, and they fled at his presence. 2 days after he set out, Glorfindel drove off 3 riders who were guarding the last bridge, expecting Aragorn and the hobbits on their journey to Rivendell. Glorfindel left his token, a green barrel, on the bridge. 2 days later, Aragorn found the barrel, took it as a sign that the bridge was safe, and led the hobbits over it. 1 week after he left Rivendell, Glorfindel finally found Frodo. The same day, Gandalf reached Rivendell from the north. 2 days after finding Frodo, as Aragorn and Glorfindel led the hobbits, with Frodo riding Glorfindel's horse, Asfaloth, towards the ford, the Nazgul came down upon them and Glorfindel ordered his horse to flee. Asfaloth galloped madly ahead and just cleared the black horses that tried to cut off the escape. Frodo and his mount made it across the river where Frodo defied the riders. Laughing, the riders entered the ford to capture Frodo, but a sudden flash flood, summoned by Elrond and Gandalf, swept them away. With 8 of the 9 horses dead, the Witch King took the one alive and traveled back to Mordor. Glorfindel, Aragorn and the hobbits reached Rivendell on October 22. Frodo was unconscious and his wound was tended to by Elrond. 2 days later, as Frodo woke up, Boromir arrived at Rivendell, after he had traveled for almost 4 months. He had lost his horse at Tharbad and traveled the remaining distance by foot. He explained that he had long wandered by roads forgotten, seeking the house of Elrond, of which many had heard, but few knew where it lay. Frodo got to meet Bilbo for the first time in 17 years. Elrond held the Council of Elrond on the 25th of October. There, Legolas explained that Gollum had escaped, Gloin and Gimli told about the messenger from Mordor, and Boromir about his dream. Almost a month later, in December 18, the membership of the Company of the Ring is chosen and they set out from Rivendell on the 25th of December, at dusk. There was discussions on which path they should take. After they discovered Saruman's treachery, they could not cross the Isen and go through Isengard and Rohan. The High Pass was also discussed, but with the fear for spies, they did not dare. It was decided that they were to pass the Redhorn Gate at Karad Rus, one of the mightiest peaks in the Misty Mountains. It was a narrow and dangerous pass. On the 8th of January, the company reached Hollin. The following days they tried to cross the Redhorn Pass, but they came into a fierce blizzard and could not go any further because of the deep snow. Thus were they defeated by the ill will of the mountain and decided to go through the mines of Moria.